Hamilton. Video games, design, play, disrupt, and grip combat racing. This is Staying In. Speaking of traditions, Peter, you're going to love this. I had my first trick-or-treaters the other week.
Oh. What did you... What? Okay, were adults or children?
Children.
Okay. What had you prepared anything? Or had they prepared anything?
I think we know the answer to this, Sam. No, I haven't prepared anything. But, because I didn't realise, and this is very useful for you to know, Peter, that if you carve a pumpkin, you put a candle in it, and you stick it so it's facing out through the window, that is the universal sign that you are open for trick-or-treating. I did not know this.
Right.
So, when I was halfway through making dinner, doorbell goes, I answer the door with butcher's knife in hand, because I was, midway through cutting a butternut squash in half.
Sure, yeah.
To the sight of two children, dressed fantastically, asking, just not saying trick or treat, just presenting a bag. Each of them presenting a bag to me. And I thought, oh no, what am I going to give them? And I realised that when I go running, because I get hungry when I run, so I always take a little bag of sweets with me when I go running.
When don't you get hungry?
So, what was the little bag of sweets?
Little bag of Haribo sweets, so I get a little multi-pack. So I take a little bag with me, so I gave them each a little bag, and quite quickly I realised I've got 10 bags. Ding dong. Oh no. Another two arrive.
Oh.
So let's fast forward to the bit where you inevitably run out of Haribo, and then you're...
Well, this is the wonderful thing, because I ran out of Haribo, and I was just about to get some sesame seed bars.
Brilliant. What have you got? What have you got this year, Timmy? Oh, Haribo. I've got Mars bar. Oh,
But they had yoghurt on them. But to be honest, though, they're not going to know. They don't care. It's so dimly lit. Like they just present their bag. So you could chuck anything in there. They don't know. Yeah. It's lucky dip. They don't know who gave them the cereal bar or whatever. Or the little bit of lint. I don't know. But basically, I was very fortunate. 10 kids, 10 Haribo. It was fantastic. So next year, I'm going to be much more prepared.
Or just don't open your door.
Why not?
Because it's Halloween. Just don't open your door. I never open my door in Halloween.
But I don't know. I just I've only just moved to this community. I don't want to be seen as an arsehole. Particularly if I've got a pumpkin in the window which says, doors are open, come in, kids, trick or treat.
Halloween is inherently for arseholes who go around people's houses and say, give me free
Wow. Whoa.
The only seasonal visitors I've ever had was in, and this is a very clear memory, it was in the second year of university, and it was just coming up to Christmas, just before we were all about to pack up for like 6 weeks of Christmas leave or whatever it was.
Yeah.
And remember those days?
Yeah.
And got this rap on the door, and opened the door to find two boys, about 13, 14, both in tracksuits, made no effort, just like literally boys off the street.
The Tesco carrier bag.
Yeah, one of them stands there with hands in the pockets. Then the other one stands there and goes, "We wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas, we wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year." And then the other guy with his hands in his pockets then takes his hand out and puts it towards me in the universal sign of giving. And I go, "Thanks very much." Close the door.
What? It's like a real life scene from the comic Viz.
But it was like, if you dressed up a bit, yeah, that's about 50p. Good singing,
sure.
Another 50p.
Another 50p.
A little bit of
sure.
entertainment, like jazz it up a bit. Then we're thinking like maybe £2. Yeah.
Toss in some dance moves.
Yeah, you can't just turn on a doorstep.
But so I'm assuming you told them all this before you closed the door.
Oh no.
Just for future advice, constructive criticism.
Just a thank you.
Just a nod, a thank you, and a move on with our lives.
See, I don't answer the door to carol singers either.
Oh, Dan!
Do you ever sign for any packages or anything?
Pretty much no. I don't get things. Yeah, I've got nothing against carol singers, but I'm not interested. You're going to come to, as Sam just explained there, you're going to come to my house, you're going to mumble some vague song lyrics, and you expect money for it. I'm like, no, you got to earn that.
How often do you get knocks on the door, Dan? Do you live on a high street? Or
very rarely. Don't get me wrong. It's not like a constant barrage of people knocking on my door. There's not a queue of people just hoping I'm going to be the one he'll open the door for. It's my house, my time. Don't be interrupting it.
I've kind of like stopped using Twitter as much as I used to. I'm continuing my don't keep it on my phone rule, and it's working out quite nicely. But because of that, I haven't heard the word Hamilton in months. Whereas the only place I've ever read the word Hamilton is on Twitter. I don't know what it is, but you have wanted to speak about it, Dan, for like weeks and weeks and weeks.
I have had it in my mind to speak about Hamilton on this podcast for literally years.
Yeah. You want to do it on Twitter, everyone's talking about it all the time. But what is it?
But I needed a reason to talk about it rather than just on a whim.
Okay, right. Can I just guess at what this thing is?
Go for it.
I'm going to join you, Peter, because I know nothing about this musical.
Oh, it's a musical.
Okay,
Spoilers. I'm so sorry.
I first heard of Hamilton when I was in New York 4 years ago now, and we're having a tour. This is going to give some of the game away, and we're taking a cycling tour around Central Park, and one of the statues there is of Alexander Hamilton, and the site... Is it the site where he had his duel? Or something like that. Anyway, there's a statue there of Alexander Hamilton, and it was just as Hamilton was starting to brew as my God, this is something really good. And if you wanted to go and see it then, tickets were like $1,000 to go and see it, because that's when it was hitting its sort of like peak as like this is like the next big Broadway smash.
So
do you want to guess what it is, or shall I just explain it to you?
Yeah, no, please just tell me, because I really don't know what it is.
Okay,
now.
so this is a musical written by a guy called Lin-Manuel Miranda. He's kind of a writer, actor, done lots of different stuff in the past. You'd probably... Kris, you may know his face. Pete, you wouldn't, because you don't know popular culture. Kris, you might know his face from seeing him in various things. And a number of years ago, he wrote a musical, a hip-hop musical, based on the life of Alexander Hamilton, who was the first Treasury Secretary of the United States. And it's a musical about him and the American Revolution. Now, saying that, and on paper, that doesn't sound all that interesting. However...
already.
When he wrote kind of the music all himself. He starred as the lead actor in it, starring as Alexander Hamilton. And when he first wrote it, he actually wrote the music as the idea of being kind of a standalone album, just as a music album. And then that kind of spiraled and it became this big musical. So the story is all about his life coming to America, how his intelligence and his talents enabled him to rise through the ranks, and how his ability to articulate thought and articulate kind of what the country should become against, at the time, the kind of the rule of the British Empire type thing. So it's a musical all about that, and then kind of after the American Revolution, the start of the United States of America. So people like George Washington are characters in it. People like Thomas Jefferson are characters within the play. And then the other side of it is it's a hip-hop musical. Now, I think a lot of people would hear hip-hop musical and kind of cringe a little bit. And it kind of... I think the term hip-hop musical kind of sells it in a way that doesn't actually come across, because hip-hop musical makes it sound like we're just going to use hip-hop songs to tell this story. And it doesn't quite fit like that. Lin-Manuel Miranda was a huge fan of musicals, of Broadway growing up. And you hear all the inflections and all the kind of the tropes of a traditional musical within this play. However, the music is so expertly written and brings in influences from hip-hop, brings in kind of influences from, and I'm going to name some rappers that I don't know very well, so it's going to sound a bit cringy for me to say them, but people like Notorious B.I.G. and Biggie Smalls, and I know of them, obviously, but I'm not a big fan of...
I think Juicy is referenced in one of the songs in it, which gets my seal of approval.
Like, there's a Notorious B.I.G. song called the 10 Crack Commandments, and in the play there is a song called the 10 Jewel Commandments, where he writes a song explaining the rules of dueling. And it's an incredibly well-written and constructed song, and it gives you all that detail. And he said he was influenced by that kind of thing. He was influenced by, there are literal rap battles, that kind of the cabinet arguments are represented by rap battles. And he talked about kind of in the past, kind of the fights between people like Jay-Z and Nas, those kind of rivalries. And that's what he used as inspiration. He used kind of modern day artists like Eminem and Common as kind of inspiration for some of the characters and how they speak and how they sing. And it is a hip hop music in terms of there's a lot of hip hop style music in it. There's a lot of spoken song in it. There's also more traditional songs as well. And the way it blends and the way it combines is just incredible. I've been listening to the album now for literally years, and it's on a fairly consistent rotation. I know all the songs. I know all the words to all the songs. It's just incredible. And kind of, because the story as well is so good, the story is incredible, going into the detail, the kind of minutiae of the politics of it. It's such an interesting story, so expertly told, with songs that are just fantastic and so beautifully constructed in terms of the use of voice and harmonies and standard music, that it's just amazing. And the reason I bring it up now, as opposed to at any point over the past few years, is I recently saw it a couple of weeks ago. And
so you, Dan, you'd been listening to the music before you'd seen it live?
Yes.
That's
So it had been running in New York in Broadway for a number of years, and then it came over to Britain the tickets, I think, went on sale around about kind of January 2016. It launched January 2018, sorry. Tickets went on sale January 2017. It premiered January 2018. Because of Toby coming along, I wasn't quite sure when I'd be able to see it, so I couldn't get tickets for that. But eventually, me and my good lady wife, we went to see it because she's also loves it. I kind of introduced her to the album and she fell in love with it as well. And we went to see it just a couple of weeks ago, and it's hands down the best thing I have ever seen in a theatre. Both in terms of, obviously, the music, which I am in love with.
Hang on. Dan, you have seen you've seen all three of us, me, Pete and Kris, in theatres performing on stage.
Yep.
You can't just throw away.
I feel hurt.
Yeah,
well,
exactly.
I'm sorry, but that's the truth. And I'm sorry if I've hurt you.
Well,
I could say stronger things in comparison between the shows that we did and the show that I saw. I could use very strong words in comparison, but it would be somewhat derogatory towards the fine work that we did to compare it to that.
What was the impact of going to see a musical and already knowing all of the songs? Because for me, when I go to a musical, half of the fun, I say fun, half of the part of it is experiencing the music for the first time within the context of the performance, rather than like for example, I've just seen Bohemian Rhapsody at the cinema, and that's not a musical, but that's the closest reference I can go to seeing a piece of entertainment where I already knew half of the entertainment that built around it. It's just like, all right, okay, this is the We Will Rock You bit, and this is the Bohemian Rhapsody bit. Yeah, I know this.
This is the whole of Live Aid?
Yeah, exactly. Rather than, for example, when I saw Matilda for the first time, and being able to discover those songs, not just as the piece of theatre was going on, but with the other people around me as well, and having that shared experience of, like, bloody hell, this song is going in places I never imagined, and like that in conjunction with the choreography and all that kind of business. So, like, you must have had a really strong impression in your head of what was going to be happening on stage on these songs before you'd even seen it.
I mean, what's interesting is the fact that obviously I'd been listening to these songs for so long, and I knew them inside and out. I knew the words. I could sing along to every single song and get all of the words. And as I said, the songs are very complex. You
were chucked out of the theatre halfway through for...
Me and my wife kind of joked...
Hamilton.
That's not even close to a song, but okay. Me and my wife joked actually that we would be chucked out for joining in. But no, and so knowing that so well, and the way I grew up with musicals, so my family were kind of very much into musicals, so I kind of grew up with them, so kind of with film musicals like Sound of Music and Mary Poppins, all that stuff. And then kind of as I've got older, I've always kind of been a part of my life, and I've seen new musicals and some older musicals and stuff like that. And so when I was listening to this is a musical where there is no dialogue. So in some musicals, you'll have dialogue and then you'll have a song and then more dialogue and then a song and that kind of thing. Whereas this, it's just song all the way through. They're individual songs, but there's no kind of connecting dialogue. So for any of you kind of are familiar with the musical Les Miserables, that's, again, it's a musical where it's just song, and the songs go into each other, and that's how the story is told. So when you listen to an album like that, you're hearing the entire story, and so again, you do have that in your mind how it will play out on stage. And the language used and the songs that are written are very descriptive and are very easy to picture that in your mind. So I did go to it thinking, I don't know how much this is going to add to it. I want to see it live, and I will get something from seeing it live. I don't actually know how much the staging is really going to add to it.
Yeah, I think it makes a massive difference where you haven't got those bits in the middle where it's just like, oh, Jim, I'm so sad. Oh, why is that, John? Oh, because I just found out my mum isn't my real mum. Oh, shucks. Mamma mia, here I go again.
So, but I had the same as a kid when I first watched Oliver. Incidentally, Sam, Les Miserables is a great XCOM name.
Les Miserables. Right, okay.
When I watched Oliver as a child, I thought, I'm getting into this narrative. It looks quite interesting. And suddenly this burst into song, and it incredibly confused me as a child. And I remember getting quite angry at the lack of naturalism.
Yeah, I think that's the reason I've never liked musicals, because I get so caught up in the drama, and it's like, well, you ruined it now.
See, maybe that's the thing in terms of a musical like Hamilton or Les Mis, where the song is all the way through, because you don't then have that break. For me, I mean, I got no problem with those. When I listen to those songs, for me, it's one of the best ways to tell a story. When I saw this show, as I say, going in thinking it wasn't going to really add an awful lot, straight away, I mean, the set is beautiful. It's relatively simplistic, but it's kind of this just kind of a blank stage with some circular platforms kind of built into the stage, and then some rigging around the side. But there's not kind of really elaborate staging of that. But what they managed to do through the choreography and the performances on stage, and there's the kind of within the center of stage, there's kind of 3 rings which are built kind of into the kind of the floor, which will turn in kind of 2 different directions, can turn at different speeds and stuff. And the images that they are able to create through just moving those images, moving the people around on those circles, are incredible. And the choreography has to be like millimeter perfect, because there are so many times where the action has characters intersecting each other as they come past each other on this kind of conveyor belt almost. Gosh. And it has to be perfect. And I've seen plenty of theatre, we've all seen plenty of theatre in the past, where sometimes it's a little bit ropey, whether or not the set's a little bit ropey or some of the performances.
We've all been in theatre in the past.
Exactly, where it's been very, very ropey. But every single aspect of this was just on point and perfect. And it was just, as I say, the images that he was being able to create through kind of the use of lighting with this huge ensemble of dancers creating these shapes and creating these images. There is one point where it represents a hurricane within the show. And one thing I love in theatre is where a performance uses sleight of hand, where it gets you to look away to do something and it surprises you. And I always love that when that happens. And it managed to do this time, and I audibly gasped, and to the point where I saw kind of in the corner of my eye my wife turned to look at me, because it did something, I don't know what they did, to make me look to the side of the stage. And as I looked back, the whole stage had frozen, and you had people with the furniture in the air, and it looked like a hurricane. And I just like, it's obviously very simple all they've done. You've got dancers picking up chairs and holding them above their head, that's all they've done. But the sharpness of it and that sleight of hand to make me look away, just to blink, and suddenly out of nowhere it's there, is just incredible. And both me and my wife is a drama teacher. She sees a hell of a lot of theatre, both because she enjoys theatre and also from kind of going with schools and stuff. And she also said it is hands down the best thing she has ever seen in the theatre. And she went into it thinking it was going to be good, but didn't quite know how good it was going to be in terms of a theatre experience. But it was just absolutely stunning. And I'd recommend you listen to it. Just listen to a few of the songs. Sometimes I think with this, because the hip-hop, because of the type of music that it is, you sometimes need to tune your ear to it, because it's all about the language that's being told, the story that's being told. And sometimes you have to tune your ear to it so you can just kind of get into that rhythm and listen to it and understand the full story. I challenge you to listen to it and not get something from it. Maybe you won't fall in love with it like I did, but I bet you will get something from it, whether it's just the story. Incredible story, incredibly well told in terms of the structure of how it's all set up, as well as the content of the songs.
Well, Dan, I'm convinced.
Alexander Hamilton.
What are you doing if I were a rich man?
Because the syllables match.
Alex.
I got my sixth, count 'em,
How many?
more than a hand.
Yeah.
More than 5?
More than 5. My 6th platinum award.
Ooh.
It was awarded to me.
Wait a second. Is that across PS3 and Vita and PS4?
Oh, all right, okay. Bloody hell! I mean, it's a tough crowd, isn't it?
I think I got 1.
Yeah, same.
I don't.
Is
think
that
I've
for
got
completing
any.
the first episode of The Walking Dead?
No, I've got 2 then.
Yeah.
No, the one I had was Tearaway.
Oh yeah, I've got the Taro one. Was really fun. Well, that
Yeah.
was a great platinum to get.
That's the only game I've ever kind of actively gone in search of things to get achievements and stuff.
Yeah, and I think, Dan, in a nutshell, that has sort of encapsulated the reason why I went out of my way to get the platinum for Marvel's Spider-Man. Which is weird for me because we said on this podcast before that I have the tendency that once I finish an open world game, I do not go back. I do not care to go back. But the platinum stuff with Spider-Man was actually, from a design perspective, really well paced, and the trophies were all designed just to push you that little bit further in the game, rather than necessarily making sure you see everything and you pick up everything. The trophies were designed more to go on, you just a little bit further, just try a little bit better in this. You don't have to take photos of all the 200 hidden photo opportunities, and you don't have to ace all the challenges given to you by Challenge Master. Like, it was a reasonable, easy few afternoons of clearing that game up, and it's kind of, so I'm in the position now where it's, well, what am I going to play next? I've just finished Night in the Woods. Thank you, Kris. An excellent Pete, that should be on your next to play. When you get your Switch, get Night in the Woods, and you'll love it, because it has a lot to say about the futility of being, which I think you'll enjoy.
Yay!
No, but it is really funny as well.
Yeah. So I'm sort of the ground. So I've downloaded that Assassin's Creed one-shot thing, because apparently it's only 4 hours long. So I'm into that.
What?
That Assassin's Creed, it was on PS Plus a while ago. What was it called? Assassin's Creed Outcast?
Freedom Cry.
Freedom Cry, yeah. It's like...
Excellent, yeah. Good.
So I might give that a go, because
It's the Assassin's Creed that solves all the problems of all the other Assassin's Creeds.
by only being 4 hours long.
By only being 4 hours long, yeah, exactly, yeah.
And then I've got Transistor by the guys who made Bastion. So I want to give that a go. So I'm just looking for a good palate cleanser, and then I'm going to be deep diving into my game. So my temptation is that I'm going to get Dark Souls for the Switch.
You're a bad man.
But I'm also very aware that Bloodborne's still there. And the reason I'm very aware of it is I was down in London a few weeks ago and had a very lovely time, and I managed to eke out a few hours to go to the V&A Museum, Victoria and Albert. And because they've got a video game exhibit going on at the moment called Design, Play, Disrupt.
Yeah.
And I knew about this mainly because a guy that I appreciate within the games industry, a guy called Matt Lees, who works for Shut Up and Sit Down and Cool Ghosts and Dark Souls, curated a part of it which was specifically about Bloodborne. And I'm like, right, yeah, okay, I'm there, I'm in London. Here's my £16 or £18. Actually, no, it was 20 quid, because, you know, they do that thing where it's like, right, it's 18 quid to go in, or you can donate £2 and round it up to 20 as a donation to the VNA. And you know what I'm like with round figures? I'm like, oh, bloody hell. Yeah, all right. Screwfix do the same. They do the same.
Let's not pretend that none of that £18 is going to the VNA. Like, we have no money. This £18, none of it's coming to us.
I know. Screwfix do it better because they just do like 47p.
Putting the screw and fix in Screwfix.
But I'll keep this brief because this is an exhibit that if you have any love for video games, and specifically how they're designed, because the Victoria and Albert Museum is specifically like a design museum. They have stuff in there from all over the world, but it's mainly about like I took a brief walk around the Japanese and China section, and it's all about the design of like the samurai uniforms, the design of their pottery and earthenware and all that kind of stuff. So this exhibit is, I was in there with like when a couple of kids and their families came visiting, and you could just feel the disappointment as soon as they stepped in, because it's just like, where are all the games to? So the exhibit is split up into 4 areas. There's like an area to play games. There's a big auditorium which plays films about games and how they can inspire creativity in communities. There's another little area which has almost like these buffet stands almost, which talks about, you know, should games be political and do games encourage violence, like all the hot topic buttons for video games. But the best bit was the design part of it, and I think that all of us, like, I'd love to go again if we get like a trip to go, or if you guys just find yourself in London. It's on until like 24th of Feb, something like that. Because every single, of the games that were part of that design exhibit, like all of us have got a vested interest in one of those games. There was Journey, The Last of Us, Bloodborne, The Graveyard, No Man's Sky, Splatoon, all games that, some of them more specifically than others, I think we would be very interested in knowing a little bit more about how they were made. And the V&A have had exceptional access. Like, they've got like the design books for The Last of Us and the design books for Journey and the original pin boards for how they mapped like the storyboard in The Last of Us, and like meet Ellie here, like leave Ellie here, and like all like how they mapped it out. And one of my favourite boards was for Journey, and how they mapped out Journey in this design structure. And you're probably more akin to this than I am, Pete, but it was kind of like the player should be feeling this here. And then it was like below it is like, if in multiplayer, the 2 players should be feeling this. And like, this is what their spiritual journey should be at this point in the game. And at this point in the game, it represents old age. And I never thought that before in Journey. Like, they've written out, like, Journey is an allegory for like getting older. Like being young and sprightly, and then you get older as you climb up that hill, you can't move, and then eventually...
And your scarf gets shorter by default, doesn't it? Your lifeline is shortened.
And then it's all about what you leave behind for the next generation. So that was really interesting. And apparently the colour palette for all of Journey came from that design document and how it's split up. And the Last of Us stuff, Dan, you would love.
I'm really eager to go to this. Obviously, I am in London, and I think when it opened a number of months ago, I kind of I said to my wife, she enjoys kind of games in a passing sense. She likes to watch me play games. She likes to
on
kind
the
of be
sidelines.
Yeah, she likes to kind of be part of that experience.
She likes to see you being kept quiet.
Yes. So I kind of mentioned that to her, see if she was interested, and kind of I explained kind of what it was and the type of things out there, and she was well up for it, so she wants to go as well. So we just need to find some time to go. Yeah. As you say, it's there until kind of February and stuff. And it's actually interesting when you talk about Journey there. That it's kind of really nice to see that kind of we would play these games, and maybe just kind of the kind of people that we would play these games, and we would try and look at the meaning behind the games as opposed to just playing it kind of thing. So it's really nice to know that what we were thinking and what we were putting into that game, the designers were thinking the exact same thing or something very similar to try and get that feeling from us. So there is a relationship there between us and them of what they're trying to put across and what we're picking up. And it's really nice to know that actually what we were picking up wasn't us wanting there to be something. That's what was meant to be there. It wasn't us looking for something that's trying to add meaning into something that has no meaning. That was the point of what they were doing.
Yeah, that ekes through all through the exhibit. Like the bit of the graveyard is the guy, the team that designed that have like their game manifesto. Like they have like a manifesto of play, like what games should be and how they should be experienced. And the stuff with The Last of Us, it takes like a vertical slice from the game and has 2 screens up against each other. And so as it wanders through, it shows you the concept art for that section. And then when Ellie and Joel are talking, it shows you the dialogue script, the code as it's flicking through. And then it will show you Ellie's AI movement for how she follows Joel. So it shows you like the map, how she navigates the world. And the Bloodborne stuff. Oh my God, the Bloodborne stuff. So the highlight of the whole exhibit for me was Matt Lees, has done basically a spoken word poem about the cleric beast, who's the first boss you fight in Bloodborne, and it's up on this massive screen, and no wonder these kids that ran in were so horrified, because it's all you can hear for pretty much throughout the whole exhibit is this fight with the cleric beast, and it is not. It's the whole design of Bloodborne. Like, it is not made to sound pretty. Like, it's meant to shock you and make you feel panic and make you feel nervous. It's actually quite an easy boss, but it defines the whole design philosophy of what Bloodborne is. But what makes the exhibit really good is they've thought about it. It's not just a screen with Matt Lee speaking over it. They've also got a little screen next to it which shows you every time he attempted that boss fight and died. So while you're watching it, you're also keeping your eye in the corner to "you died" popping up, and "you died" all the time. And on the other side, it's got a screen of him just holding the controller, like sort of like a bird's eye view, like just top down of him, like on the controller, so you can see the dexterity that's going into what he's doing. And he just nails the design philosophy of Bloodborne, so much so that I think I'm definitely going to go back to it, or definitely play some Dark Souls on Switch, because what he showed me, and genuinely what that exhibit showed me, and what you spoke about, Dan, is when you get that connection with a game, that you go, yeah, I know exactly what you were trying to do with this. Like, I know exactly what you were trying to communicate through this mechanic. That it's really hard to like tear yourself away from that kind of experience.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Well, I feel like...
What do you feel like? You feel like Chicken Tonight? Do you remember those adverts? Do you remember I feel like chicken tonight. Alex Hamilton, right? And it was just like chicken with the worst sauce.
With I actually had a Chicken Tonight jar, but I used it instead for like a potato bake.
Oh yeah,
and oh god, you eat it, and then like at the end of it, you're like, why does my whole mouth taste like chemicals? Like,
I feel like chicken tonight. Chicken tonight. It's like they made up the jingle and thought, oh, we've got to make some food stuff now, don't we?
Like, honestly, like there is some utter rubbish, isn't there? Like on in advertising, I feel like chicken tonight. Okay, fine. That's a perfectly fine sentence. I feel like chicken tonight. Yeah, all right. That's a little bit insistent. Like chicken tonight. All right. Okay.
But somewhere, 12 people in a room decided that would be the most valid way to advertise that product.
Can I just say, like, 20 years later, we're sat here on a podcast singing that tune. It kind of worked.
You're right, Dan. It's a slow burn.
Yeah. They were sat there, and they were sat there in the marketing department, weren't they? They were sat there like, you know what? If we can just reach four middle class white dudes
30
in 20
years from
time,
now,
then maybe they'll buy a jar of our crap sauce. Like,
I mean, you can carry on your thought, but I daren't believe that Chicken Tonight is something that's still on sale. Go on.
I think it is.
Pete?
I reckon it is.
Oh, it's 100% on sale.
Chicken Tonight.
Do you feel like that?
Chicken Tonight French wine sauce.
Oh, doesn't mention which French wine, but it's gross, isn't it? Talking about fine food, I had a 60-year-old wine like the other week.
All right.
A glass of this 60-year-old red.
Now, I've had old wine before.
Yeah.
As well.
Is that just wine that you found after a long time, or is that?
Yeah, it was like a couple of years.
Yeah, you'd poured it a few years ago, and you just forgot about it.
When do we buy this bottle of Echo Falls?
There's a really nice wine restaurant in Manchester where you have this little card, and you load up the card with money figures, and then it has like along the walls. There's not like a bar there. Along the walls, it has this dispensary for lots of different wines, and you slot your card into the top, and you say, "Oh, I'll just have a little like dribble of this, just to like taste it." So you can either have like full glasses of wine that you know you like, or you can spend the money just tasting loads of wine. And at the end of the evening, we had some money left, and we were like, we'll just try it. We'll get a little like dribble of the 30-year wine and try it, and it tasted all right.
Yeah, like that. So I had a glass of a 60-year-old wine, and I had a glass of what Alex's father believes is one of the greatest wines in the world, and it was from 1986.
good
Like,
shit.
it is like an expensive bottle, and he's been keeping it for a while, and he thinks it's the best wine, best vintage, best year. And I was sat there, and it was a very nice, polite dinner. We were all having a nice time and celebrating his birthday. And he's like, what do you think of this? And I was sat there, and the only thing that was trawling through my mind, my brain was just screaming, "Yeah, that's red wine."
I mean, I agree with you. I mean, what do you expect to be tasting? Like ichor from Olympus? Like it's not the blood of the gods. It's not going to give you everlasting life. It just.
But some people think it is. Like, and I guess that's like.
I suppose he was asking you to describe what the bouquet was, like what notes you were getting.
Red. But like
Red isn't a note, Pete.
Or a bouquet.
Smells like red. I mean, like I guess that's maybe the same with like games, right? Like I sit down and I play, some nice tabletop or video games or whatever it is, and I'm like, I have a very definitive set of tastes, and sometimes I'll go to games that are like slightly out there because that's a thing that I really enjoy. But for most people, like it's just it's fine. It's like whatever is in Tesco's, right? Is enough.
So me and you have been playing Grip, which is a game designed by someone who has, a bit like Alex's dad, holds something in very high esteem from their past,
Yes.
and also and wants you to enjoy it as much as they have enjoyed it as well. So Grip is basically, it's almost like it's a love letter to Roll Cage. You remember that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Well, rose tinted glasses, brilliant game that was out on the PlayStation 1. And a guy, I'm sure you're filling all the gaps here, Pete. And a guy basically loved it so much, decided, well, I'm just going to make it again, put it on PS4 and Switch and PC and
Xbox and all that other one. I've been playing it, and so I've been playing the PC version. You've been playing the Switch version.
Yeah.
And we'll talk about the differences in a minute. But
is it that thing? Do you get that thing from it? Is like that wine? Is it something that you just appreciate it for what it is? Is it just a thing that you can only appreciate for what it is, or is it imbued with the fact that it was made by someone who loved it possibly more than you do?
It's a thing that the game is so Roll Cage in a lot of ways, but especially in feeling, and that's like so in like it is so mid to late 90s racing game that it's this wonderful reminder of how different racing games are now. Not in a better way or a worse way, just they're different. Like the thing that one of the key things that keeps hammering home to me while I play this is bloody hell, this is hard.
Yeah.
Like this is a hard. Like I'm like if I get to second, I'm like brilliant, and I'm just like sweating. like I'm just like that. This is incredibly hard because that game does not muck about, right? So if you think about just for anybody who hasn't played Roll Cage or Grip, basically
or can't remember things 30 years ago.
Yeah, exactly. Like. Basically, the idea is that you have the vehicles have four wheels, four very large wheels, and a lot of downforce to them. But the wheels are as tall as the actual vehicle's body itself. So it's like, do you remember those old remote-controlled racing cars that could flip upside down and keep driving? Mm-hmm. That's the exact same thing. And so they have a lot of downforce as well. And what that means is that. Yes, obviously you're keeping to it's a futuristic racing game, very, very high speed, but it's not Wipeout in that it's anti-grav, but it is Wipeout in that the game is like, yo, learn these tracks because otherwise you're screwed. And learn how this very different handling model wants to be treated. It is not just, you could just pick this up and play it if you've played any old racing game. It's the cars feel incredibly weighty and very slow to turn until you overturn them, and it is like a feather's touch of how they are to oversteer, for example, or they've got this loads of downforce, so you can go very, very quickly, and there's boosts and weapons and all that sort of stuff. It means that you can go up the side of the tracks. You can be basically driving on the roof upside down with competitors below you, which is an incredible thing. It makes you feel
And like Roll Cage, it's got those great moments where you'll come out of a tunnel and you'll be like, I was upside down the whole time.
Yeah. And you're like, yes! But here's the thing. Because it needs that downforce, if one of those wheels leaves the ground, you are out of control. Like, so it has these like little along all of the tracks, as well as the pickups and and beautiful gentle sweeping curves, which is exactly what you want in Roll Cage. Sweeping curves. It'll also have these little bumps in the road, or little lit up sort of tiny little ramps. They'll just take one wheel up, and it will either just spin you out, or you need to absolutely compensate for it and know that you're about to hit that. But because you've got so much forward momentum, and because the actual amount you can turn is quite small until you start careening out of control, you really feel like you have to get into this like loop. Like Formula One games like Wipeout, it feels like you have to get into this loop, and as soon as you come out of that rhythm, like it's over, and you're third, and you're behind, like you're going to lose the race. And like for me, I was like, that's great. Like I'm constantly playing it and thinking to myself, this is astonishingly hard. I'm into this. Whereas, like, if you're going into this thinking, it's just like F-Zero, or it's just like Wipeout, it's just like any other racing game.
A bottle of wine, then
yeah, like if you're going into it thinking like this is like just some bottle of like Plonk, right? It's like whatever. Then yes, you're going to run up against it because it isn't interested in holding you by the hand, and that's good for me. But it's also got a few failings, like. I think. I mean, how have you found it on Switch?
On Switch, Switch is not. I liked it. I like it, but it looks on Switch like someone smeared Vaseline all over the screen. It looks like it's been downgraded to keep the frame rate up. So it's a bit cloudy, it's a bit foggy, and just some really strange choices. Like, so I have a bad time with the Switch controls most of the times. Like. And there's some bits in Night in the Woods where you have to play the bass, Chris was saying on the pod, it's like Rock Band. So as the trigger points come down, you've just got to hit like X, Y, B. I have no idea where A, B, X, and Y is on the Switch controller. So I was just like, Alexander Hamilton, like just like all over the shop. So. Already, I'm at a kind of a disadvantage with the Switch because it's not my dominant console. Like, I don't know where those buttons are when I close my eyes. So it's not helped by the fact that Grip has the strangest button mapping.
Really odd.
So the game sets you off with the default where the accelerate button is the right trigger, but the button to fire your right weapon is also the right bumper. And if you're holding the controller, you're only using one finger on the trigger. So essentially, you've got to take your finger off the accelerate trigger to fire a weapon.
Right. So I actually have to hold the controller. I play with an Xbox 360 controller through the PC. So I've been holding with my middle finger the right trigger to accelerate, and then with my first finger R1 to fire. And it is very odd. Like it just immediately makes you think, oh, okay, I don't quite have the same level of like fine control over the fingers, and this is a game that does need a little bit of that. What did you think about like the menu design?
The
menus are mad.
So the menus are crazy, and to sum them up, half the menus to continue you press A, which is the equivalent of pressing circle on the PS4 pad. Other menus to progress, you have to press X on the Switch, which is the equivalent of pressing triangle. On the PS4.
Yeah.
And you're just like, what? Why?
And it seems really weirdly arbitrary.
And I know that shouldn't put you off a game, but those little like quality of life things can be the difference between when I'm looking at my Switch and I'm cycling through the games. I've got 10 minutes. What am I going to play? What am I going to play? I'll dive into Dark Souls again because I know I'm going to have a good quality of game. I'm not going to have to fight against anything to play.
So there's the campaign, and I'm going to say nice things about this game in a minute because I do want to actually get across that I really do like it.
It shows that I'm being really nitpicky about the fact that controls don't make it comfortable because we both like the game.
Yeah, exactly. So So there's a campaign, and like that's the meat of the game really, and you level up through it, and you unlock content, and you can deck out your car in whatever way you want, and new paints and color schemes and all that good stuff, decals. There's a single player component and an online component. I haven't really done much online stuff. Single player component, you can play different race types. So there's a deathmatch, which is, as you would expect, it's like an arena-based shooting stuff. There's single races, which is racing against the clock across lots of different futuristic planets, destroying stuff. It's great. And then there's Carcore, which is like basically it's like Trackmania's stunt tracks. So it's not about it is about getting through it quickly, but it's more about like, can you get to the end?
Yeah.
And like, so I was like, oh, that's a really cool idea. Like, I love racing games that, and driving games that try different things. And so I started playing it. And the first one is called something like Up and Down or something like that. And basically, there's one jump. Okay. There's a single jump that you need to make. And I went to go and choose to play that as part of the single player because I hadn't unlocked it during the campaign. So I was playing in the single player mode. And before you go in, you can choose the speed of your vehicle, right? So it's slow, medium, and fast. Really fast. I'm 99% confident that if you choose the slow one, which is the default, you can't complete that first level. Like, I spent 20 minutes trying to basically get over a jump with the slowest vehicle, and I couldn't get across. The chasm was just too wide.
Big.
Whereas I went to medium, and it was like, yeah, no problem.
I remember playing a race on GTA 5 with Kris, where Kris, at the start where you pick a vehicle, and for some reason, I think it may have been by accident, Kris picked...
And I was timed out, and I didn't pick a vehicle, so it gave me what it felt was the most suitable default vehicle for this loop-the-loop track, which happened to be a Vespa scooter.
But the Vespa scooter did not have enough power to get up some of the hills in the track.
So because Dan, it was a hairdryer.
We would be looping, we would be lapping him repeatedly, and every time I'd lap him, I'd just see Kris, like, I could just see like the smoke coming out the back of his Vespa as he struggles to get up this one hill.
Like, just, yeah. So, like, I couldn't figure out a way to make that work, right? It's just weird little decisions like that I just... that are really strange. But for all of these little quality of life things that we've sort of been complaining about, it is a really good game. Like, it is an excellent game. Like, it is super fast, and I really like fast racing games. It has a really cool door ajar style world building and narrative, which is basically like opening just enough into this world to give you a hint at what the backstory is and where humanity is and what the story is, but not so much that, it's a racing game, right? But there's just enough of that world building to go, this is really interesting. The presentation, I think, is excellent. So I'm playing this on PC. I've got a pretty good PC, and I'm playing it on like max settings, and it looks phenomenal, and it runs super smooth. And when everything is moving and you are up against, you are up in the middle of the racing pack, and half of you are on the ceiling, half of you are on the ground, people are boosting away, people throwing rockets out, some people are like flying out, taking different shortcuts so that they can, very, very dangerous, risky shortcuts to shave a few seconds off their lap times. When you're wheel to wheel with your opponents, it is extremely exciting. Like, it is an extremely exciting racing game. And yeah, I mean, I think it's great. And it's really cool that it's been in like early access for so long, because I avoided it in early access because I wanted to play a game that was like finished and done and ready to, like, an actual proper game that was like sorted. And there's tons of content, loads to unlock. Like, yeah, it's really cool. And I think, I don't know. Like, if we were all into racing games, this would be the one that I'd be like, we need to just play this online.
Pete.
Yeah.
If I want to send a question in...
Yeah.
Is it... Hang on, Pete. Hang on. I think I've learnt the email address. I think I've learnt it.
Yeah.
Staying in the podcast.
No. Okay, so it's staying in pod at gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at Twitter. You can find us on at Twitter. Don't tweet Twitter. Jack will just be like, I'm too busy.
What's Twitter?
It's so you can do it to stayinpod@gmail.com, or you can find us on Twitter and Facebook at stayinpod for both, I think.
Gotcha.
And you can just send us a message there and say hello. And we this is like episode 8 where we've had continued to have them, which is really good. So
Go on. I'm ready.
this is from Twitter.
Question me up.
At Cromarty. Good name. I like Cromarty. So they've asked us a question. They've also provided a statement, which we'll go into in a second. So they said the best board game is Risk, which I think is fine.
Okay.
This is a statement, but also a question. I guess they're asking, is this the best board game?
The best board game is Risk.
Best board game is Risk. And also, why is Australia a territory that they make so easy to take and keep? Now, I'm assuming that is related to the game Risk. And not like the geopolitical...
satire.
Best board game is Risk?
No.
Now, are we talking about the Risk, the board game, or kind of the concept of Risk?
The best board game is.
Best board game
Risky
of
board
Risk.
games.
Oh.
No, he's just... having seen this tweet briefly, he's used a capital R on the Risk, so I assume...
Oh, okay. So it's Risk, the intellectual property of Hasbro. So I think, is it the best board game? It's probably not. Not for me, anyway.
I think Risk has a lot to answer for. But in
What
good
do
ways.
you mean by that, Sam?
In good ways. In good ways. I think
What do you mean about that? By one of our listeners' favourite board games?
Well, first of all, it gave birth to the legacy genre,
That's good.
so it has a lot to answer for then. And
There's the tick in the pro column.
there's a tick in the pro column.
Important game.
I also think Risk has done a lot for diplomacy within games and making that, and so blending those two halves of games where it's like a random chance, which is all games used to be.
Yeah.
Really, you roll a dice, you roll and move. That is your go.
Yeah.
All based on the roll of the dice. And there is some random elements, like the combat in Risk is random, but you can improve your odds based on your army size and things like that.
Yeah.
But and from those I know who have played Risk and enjoyed it, what they enjoy is the diplomatic area of it. To the fact that they went from Risk to play a game called Diplomacy, which is kind of what I sort of have it in my head is kind of like the best bits of Risk in another game.
Right.
So like enhances, you like diplomacy, you like the diplomatic things in Risk where you're asking another player not to invade or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
But
So the best bit of Risk is social.
Yeah, I think that's what Risk does, because even though most of its elements are random in terms of like cards that you're playing from your hand and you're pulling from a deck and dice that you're rolling for attacking, it's what I think people enjoy about it is the social part of it, the stories that you tell, the fact that, you know, between 2, 3 or 4 players or whatever, or even 6 I think it can go to, you are creating your own history of the world, really.
And we'll come to Kris for his expert analysis. Why is Australia a territory that's so easy to take and keep?
Well, I've done some research on this.
Go on.
Apparently...
All right. Or is there an actual reason?
Well, it's just because it basically allows you to mount a defence on such a massive scale, essentially. Mm-hmm. So others find it pointless to even mess with you because of where you're located. It's actually quite an easy way to kind of hunker down.
Yeah.
Apparently, never start in Europe, and because the Ukraine is weak in the game. Yeah. Apparently, these people's strategies they're putting forward. But yeah, Australia is like a good place to kind of fortify. It's a massive chunky island, I'm assuming. I have actually played both Risk and Diplomacy, but I don't know if you ever did this, but when you go into... we had like a toy cupboard when we were kids that had the games and toys in that was shared between the 3 of us, me and my 2 siblings. My dad's board games were in there, and my brother and I found his copy of Risk and Diplomacy, and we looked at the cover, and it was a bit like those kids, Sam, that you saw at the V&A. We thought, oh, wow. This looks great.
And then immediately disappointment.
We opened the box, we took one look at this rule book, which I can't remember if it's long or not, but it looked long for us as a child and looked impenetrable. So we decided to play the game without reading the rules. So we just made up, and it was wonderful because it became that social thing of Risk. We decided as we were playing what the rules were, and we played Risk for hours without playing the rules. We made up the rules ourselves.
That's great. I was the same with, is it called Word Up or Upwords? Which is like that variant of Scrabble where you could put the letters on top of other letters.
It takes Scrabble into the third dimension.
And me and my brother used to create like little word forts. we never didn't understand how the game worked, so we just like built little like word barricades with the letters and tiles. That was about it. But Risk, yeah.
It's like doing like Hungry Hippo's Legacy.
I'd actually quite like to play Risk Legacy. I wonder whether that would be a...
It's meant to be great. It's meant to be absolutely brilliant.
Because that's what you kind of want from that game. Yeah. Because, like, Risk has lots of things in it that I like in games. Like, it has that, you know, the tactical strategic element of not just where you're going to place things, but the bonds and the unities you make outside of the game, as it were. It has, you know, pretty interesting dice combat, which is always thrilling. You know, any game that makes you go, yeah, or, oh, like on a roll of a dice, I think those are genuinely exciting. But it also has the capacity to tell a story and and for me, those are the games I like most, and it's still the one reason why I really want to play Twilight Imperium by hook or by crook, because that game is built around making a story and developing, like, you know, a government between you and your friends. So if that makes Risk the best board game ever, then...
Well, apparently it does, because as the listener said, Risk is the best board game.
Where is Risk on BGG?
Oh, you can't trust BGG with something like that. Like, you can...
but like, joking aside, because, like, Legacy in kind of the board game world hasn't really taken off as much as people thought it would. There's been quite a few duff Legacy games, so I really think we're going to see a lot of people going back thinking, actually, I've played Pandemic Legacy. These ones are out here now pretty naff. I want to go back to the Legacy game.
And a game like Risk benefits a bit more because of all those components, because of all those things I kind of said, you know, the fact that you're creating a story, the fact that you're developing like alliances, and you will also double cross your friends. Like, having that legacy element can really embellish and emphasize those traits. And I also wonder whether, because Risk has one thing in it that I hate in all games, which is player elimination. Like the fact that the fact that anyone should have to sit out of a game and watch other people play, I think is, unless there's some way that's built into a mechanic. Like, I heard of a recent game, a social game that was it Werewolf Legacy? I don't know.
No. It's one that's like Werewolf. They were talking about it and Shut Up and Sit Down. The name escapes me, but
where they become ghosts.
That's it.
If you get eliminated from the game, you become a ghost, and you still have a role in what happens in the game. But anyway, by the by, Risk has that in it, and I think that if the Legacy version fixes that, then I'm on board for playing it.
The slight Risk variant.
Yes.
That was Staying In with Sam Turner, Peter Willington, Dan Frost, and myself, Kris Darby. If you've enjoyed this episode, make sure to subscribe to us on wherever you get your podcasts. If you'd like to leave us a review too, also, we'd be really chuffed to bits. Thanks for listening.